my name's Jordan. I own and operate a locally focused sales and brand development agency, call it Shoreline Sales Group. Started my business in January of 2021, aiming to help local Saskatchewan-based producers in two different segments of craft, both in liquor and grocery, thrive in the province of Saskatchewan by helping them outsource very costly and time-consuming facet of their growing small business, which is sales. Small businesses can often break the bank and consume a ton of valuable time. Consume a ton of valuable time to help maintain and grow sales. The time commitment of putting on the miles and maintaining the relationships with all the retailers throughout the large provinces we have in Canada is a full-time job and then some. I was once a sales rep for one of the largest breweries in Saskatchewan, or the largest brewery in Saskatchewan, and the costs associated with an in-house sales rep and the time the job demands can be crippling for small local brands to maintain and manage themselves. So I started Shoreline Sales not only to help with the hurdle and the cost associated with representation, but also I'm a true foodie and a true craft lover at heart. So to represent brands that I believe in and consume myself was a pretty easy pivot for me. I'm very passionate to help these brands thrive as much as possible. So that's a little bit about me. Now I guess I'll move on to talk a little bit about some of the sales and distribution strategies you may face as you maneuver through the development of your brand. I would, again, definitely want to take this time to have it be more of a Q&A. So again, stop me at any time. I want to answer the questions you guys have. I don't know if I have, the next 50 minutes worth of speech here. I am a sales rep, so I have the ability to go on and on about stuff that sometimes people just don't need to hear anymore. So stop me, ask the right questions, and hopefully I'll have some advice and some answers for you. Saskatchewan's definitely a very unique place to develop and grow your brand. I find it to be a really awesome proving ground for brands because we just have a million people, so it really allows some smaller businesses to cross their T's, dot their I's, get their branding, their marketing, their labeling, their packaging and everything all ready to rock and roll before they start thinking Western Canada, as Amy and Parker View Brews Kombucha are currently in the process of doing. So anyway, to move on, sales. All the producers I work with in Saskatchewan they sell mostly in Saskatchewan. So distribution is done direct rather than warehousing with the retailer at a national level. This means nothing is auto-ordered. Sales are generated through developing relationships with the account to hopefully have my clients' brands front of mind when ordering. We have a beautiful and easy online ordering portal that gets sent out on a link in a weekly mail out. Though I must say the vast majority of sales and orders are generated through in-person sales calls. A large part of what I do is keeping retailers honest and accountable for ordering and maintaining good shelf presence for my clients. Retailers love nothing more than to have a person and a face associated with the brand, showing up and proving to them that you care for and value your brand as well as their business, helping the category managers and owners understand the ins and outs of your product and how to best move it goes a very, very, very long way. I've seen pretty awesome local brands get dropped as fast as they were listed because there was no follow-up, no face, no advocate, no one to help the retailer understand the product, the brand, and how to order it, how to move it, and so on. So showing you care goes further than almost anything else you can do. At the end of the day, small local startups don't have massive billboards. We don't have Super Bowl commercials. So someone to show up and advocate for your brand makes all the difference. To go a little bit more into a question that was asked earlier, do demos help? Right now, that's the biggest message I'm giving to all my clients is demo. You've got to, consumers are very set in their ways. Their shopping lists don't change. They create shopping lists based on products that they currently have in their house that they've ran out of and need to replace. So you gotta give, your potential audience a reason to put down the product that they're used to buying and pick yours up. And doing demos is invaluable. And it's often a very cost neutral thing. The cost of if you're going to do a demo yourself, that's the best way to do it. If you're going to hire someone, make sure they understand your brand, how to talk to it, understand the message you want to convey, and get them out there. A good demo person can be anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour. And a demo will last about 4 hours on average. And, in 4 hours, they're going to outsell 9 times out of 10, they're going to outsell what it costs to put them on that floor. And so it was a cost neutral venture. It probably sold enough product to gain a re-up from that store. And you've got your product in that many more mouths, and we're able to educate that many more people. And some people may not have had it on the list that day when they entered the store, but they've now tried it, they like it, and next time they lay eyes on it, they might purchase it at that point. So, you're definitely doing your brand justice and building a pretty strong fan base by offering demos. There's a large difference in sales with my clients who do put a lot of work and effort into demoing and trade shows and farmers markets versus the brands that believe if I have good shelf position and I have X number of facings and it's in the store, it will move. That's just not always the case. A lot of times, local brands can be kind of unique and very niche. So you've got to get out in front of your audience and teach them how to use it. Teach them recipes. Teach them why they should choose non-GMO plant-based clean protein entree versus Hungry Man or lean cuisine. The products that local producers are creating are awesome. They're delicious. They're worth purchasing, but you got to teach your consumers and get out in front of them and tell them why you over the competition. There's also the fact that your product, especially as you start, is often going to end up more expensive than the competition or more expensive than the alternative option. And that's just because new brands don't have the buying power, short of going and getting a grant or a massive loan or investors that some of the larger corporations have. So you're not buying a shipping container full of packaging so that you're to drive your unit price down. You're usually buying things one pallet at a time, and so your unit cost goes up, which means the stores take their margin regardless. And the price of the end consumer is higher. So you have to get out in front of them and educate them why they should spend the few extra dollars on your product. Also, make sure that you put a little extra, what do I want to say here, oomph behind your display at a store. Use shelf talkers, use the correct verbiage, draw on the fact that you're a local brand. Every one of my clients' products in a store has a big old yellow and green Made in Sask sign right in front of it that we put out in front. And you have no idea how much consumers value seeing that and how much it changes their mind from grabbing XYZ national product and selecting yours. I often see one of the cool things when I walk into a grocery store and set eyes on my clients' brands is when I see 5 or 6 jars of some large national brand stuck on our shelf set. That means that consumer went to buy what they would normally buy and saw a reason to pick up our product instead. And so they set that product down on my shelf, and of course I have to clean it up and find the aisle or shelf it goes down and put it back. But that's always really positive kind of feedback that you can see when you go visit your stores. Is there any questions so far? I'm going to keep rambling.
I don't have a question for you, but I'm going to ask a question on behalf of the group because we have some founders, like we have Maureen, who's in many grocery stores. We have Diana, who's in many grocery stores. And we have a couple founders that are literally, they pitched last week to grocery stores. And we have some founders that are strictly in farmers markets. What would your advice, Jordan, be for some of these founders who are not quite at that retail level, other than obviously checking off those policy and procedure boxes? What's your advice on like a good product demo, good product pitch? How do they even approach a grocery store to get into it?
It's really, and maybe I don't know, it's just not as hard as you think. And it depends where you're selling to. Saskatchewan, in my experience, where I sell here in Saskatchewan, it's a small place. So, walking into the store and pitching your product. Well, first of all, do some education on where you want your product sold. I've been working with Amy a long time, and Amy always wanted her product in a certain place in the store. I moved her product into the produce section of a lot of stores, and it kind of doubled or tripled the sales within that store. So figure out where you want to be. Grocery stores are designed with a purpose, and there's a flow to them. The first department you're usually going through in a grocery store is produce. That's why we've been very successful with the brands we put in produce, because at the start of everyone's shopping experience, their shopping carts are empty. And so their ability to, or their willingness to put a product in their shopping cart that they didn't necessarily come to the store for is a little bit higher because their shopping cart's empty. By the time they get to the end, if you put your product on the very last aisle and they've already got, $500 worth of groceries, you're fighting a losing battle. So know where you want to put your product, and then ask for that, the manager of that department, and talk to them. Store owners are great to get to know at first. However, they're never going to place the orders. It's the management of that department that's going to babysit your product. And the more you get to know them and the closer you get with them, the more you build that relationship and get them to hopefully like you and your brand, the better off you're going to do, the more orders you're going to see, the more they're going to babysit your product, because they value that you value them. And as far as pitching your product, just make sure that, it's interesting. There's being passionate about your product, but you can be passionate to a fault, in some regards. I've worked with some clients that that that'll walk up to a manager or a grocery store owner and make them kind of feel that they're crazy if you don't carry this brand. And that's definitely not the way to do it. Building relationships is what I'm in the business of. That's what I don't really call myself a sales rep. I call myself a professional relationship manager at this point. I mean, just work with them on their level, understand, as Amy mentioned, there are thousands and thousands of products in a grocery store. And the more you can pitch your brand and advocate for your brand to keep it front of mind to that person that's going to be placing the orders, the more success you'll see. I don't know. I'm not really answering your question because I just I'm so inherently passionate about local products that, I just kind of go in there, and at this point I just kind of talk to them. Shoreline's developed a reputation for carrying really high quality local Saskatchewan brands and providing a service to retailers that they really value. So maybe that's something that you should definitely illuminate in your pitch is how their biggest hurdle is, how easy is this going to be to order? Do I have to go through my Rolodex of local producers and find the owner of XYZ company? Do they like text, email, phone calls? Do they have an online ordering system? How do I get this product? Who's delivering it? So really driving home the process and the flow of how you intend to satisfy a PO, and kind of creating ease within them, knowing that ordering and maintaining your product is going to be simple for them, goes a long way. Local products, I mean, short of being warehoused, which is really hard to do because you're giving up a lot of margin and points to be warehoused with national retailers. It means that you're not on an auto ordering system. So, these managers can't go by with a gun and scan your product and know what they have in inventory and know what they need for the next 2 weeks worth of sales. So you really need to drive home that you're willing to work with them to make their lives a lot easier, because they're not going to unfortunately, they're inherently going to be kind of lazy when 90% of their store, 99% of their store is on an auto ordering system. It gets really difficult for them to carve out time in their day to look at the section where, a local brand working on flex space or free shelf space or a profit panel or a feature end cap, to take the time and look at it and realize, oh geez, I got to order this. Grocery is kind of interesting that way. Once you get shelf space, they really just want it to be full all the time, and they don't want a ton of back stock. So understanding the cycle and the sales of your product based on how often you intend to distribute to that particular region is very important, and it's what we've been successful at doing with a lot of my clients. So I'll use Amy for example, because you just met her. Her product is a high volume product. It's an instant consumable, and it's got a short shelf life. So we've got to do a lot of little orders with it. Don't let a grocery store manager get you all excited with an order for a pallet of something that expires in 4 months. If you let that sale happen, and then you're accountable for it, right? I mean, if it goes bad, they're going to look to you for product buyback or credit on file. And if you say no, then we're like, well, I'll find someone else who does honor that sort of commitment because this is insane. We've just got too much product. So knowing the cycle of your product and how often you intend to distribute and babysit certain accounts really goes a long way in instilling confidence in them.
On that note, we have a question from Maureen, who is a produce greenhouse owner and works with supply chain and produce. So she has a question, so I'll maybe let her ask that. Maureen used on the bottom row, there's a little smiley face with a plus sign and it says reaction. So if you have a question, you can click on that and then you can raise your hand. There's that big toggle there. So, and then you can lower it as well. But Maureen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My question is, it has to do with way back in the beginning when you were talking about where Amy thought that her kombucha should be and where you got it placed and how it made such a difference in sales. Now, what do you do in our case? The grocery store chains issue floor plans that they want the different departments to adhere to. Now I know where our stuff does best, but if the floor plan goes against it and the DO comes through and says, hey, that's supposed to be over there, not right here. How do you combat that? Because sometimes our stuff gets put, like in the very best place possible, which is on a wall that you don't see. When you walk in the door, there's a 45-degree span that everybody makes with their eyes. And the very first place they put us at the very beginning of the year, it's on this wall right here that you walk right past. And it's universal through all the produce sections in the Sobe Safeway chain, because that's how the floor plan is. Now, get that produce manager to change the floor plan against the mandated plan he's been given. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go against that?
It's really tough. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have a specific answer for your question. I don't unfortunately do any produce items at the moment. So it's tough. I work on a lot of shelf space within grocery. We have a few produce items, which is great, but not they're all packaged items. So to answer your question, the way I've kind of combated that is just through time, trust, and relationship building. Like I said, I am a lot of these accounts see me as much as they see the Coca-Cola and Lay's sales reps. So working with me and building, we work at building trust with them to kind of offer suggestions that they're really listening to. They don't just see me once a year and say, oh, hey, I want my product over there. Can you do this for us? We've got a long-standing relationship with a lot of the grocers in the province. And I think that's kind of where I've gained their trust in being able to make those moves. I don't really have an answer to your question. I think it just takes time and persistence.
I have a question for you, Jordan. Obviously, you represent a host of different businesses from across Saskatchewan mainly, and a few different market sectors. Based on the organizations that you represent, are there any standout strategies that you find work really well for getting people to grab items off the store shelf? So obviously you talked earlier about kind of collaterals that also sit with your product. You talked about those little stickers. I mean, Amy just changed her packaging. It's a brighter package now, what it seems like to me. Are there any interesting standouts that people wouldn't necessarily think right off the top of their head if they're new into retail?
Again, packaging goes a long way. One of the biggest passions of my agency is the brand development side of things. We've worked with a lot of brands that were just in mason jars at the farmers market, and if you want to move volume and play in the big stores, you got to look the part. So that's definitely a big part of the battle. Use lots of color, use bold, clear, legible, visible writing and verbiage. I'll give you an example. I had a kraut producer that they had 3 SKUs. They had pickle kraut, or pickle, turmeric, and ginger. Well, it didn't say kraut anywhere on the jar, and these things may be obvious to some people, but it wasn't to them. And it only had one ingredient. We had them change the labels to say pineapple turmeric kraut, dill pickle kraut, carrot ginger kraut. And now, and that overnight tripled their sales, because now people knew it was a kraut, not a jar of turmeric. And they saw one more ingredient that they identified with and found very interesting. Shelf talkers, as I said, are very important. Whether that's something that says made in wherever you're made, to really tug on the heartstrings of people who support local. Maybe it's a recipe on how to use your product, or instructions on how to use your product. That same brand that I just mentioned, we do shelf talkers on how to use their kimchi. What's a good recipe? My honey brand, well, they're the purest honey brand. There's no preservatives. There's no fine filtering or anything. It's amazing. It's an amazing product, but their raw honey solidifies. And so we put a shelf talker out there teaching people how to, re-liquefy that honey without losing all the health benefits and essentially pasteurizing it. So little things like that. I mean, people love to see it. Get in as many places in the store as you can. I mean, yes, with tomatoes and cucumbers, it's going to be tough. But if you have a shelf-stable product, packaged product, asking for not only where your product is, but pairing it with, so say you have a salsa brand. Well, work with that department manager and say, hey, our salsa is really good with XYZ chip company. It's Super Bowl or Grey Cup season. What are your thoughts on doing a cool feature end cap on chips and salsa? And they're like, yeah, we've been very successful with those before. Would you be, would you be interested in considering our salsa? Absolutely, because you're right there in front of them. We have 3 varieties of salsa. We'll do 3 shelves, 1 of each SKU. Try and maximize how much salsa they're going to order, and say, well, let's do chips top and bottom, and on each side we'll do whatever else pairs with it. Like, help them create those seasonal displays using your product. Get it in as many locations as the store as possible. Flex space, profit panels, feature end caps. When you launch your product, try not to just settle for the space that you're allotted in that store. Try and launch it in a big way and get a big aisle end display featuring your product. Get all the information and coroplast signs and shelf talkers that you can possibly put on it to inform consumers who you are, and they're going to look at this and be like, what's this really big, new, exciting brand? And everyone's going to try it, because they're going to say, well, this grocer gave these people a 6-foot by 10-foot tall section in their grocery store, so it's got to be something they believe in and that's worth trying. So I guess I'm going to pick it up today. Yeah, those are a few things, I suppose.
Jordan, it's my understanding that you also do some work within convenience store locations. Am I correct in that, or am I way out to lunch on that?
Yeah, so we target co-op C-stores in the province. They're definitely there's a difference between a gas station and a convenience store. I mean, we do a lot of different C-stores, but as far as ones that offer fuel, we work with co-ops. They promote their gas stations as convenience stores and not just fueling stations. So there is a lot more that you are finding available at fueling stations that have that kind of layout and that labeling as a C-store, convenience store. And they're looking to put interesting things that may work when people are on the go buying gas, traveling. Yeah, so we do work with convenience stores.
It's an interesting strategy. Do you find that those are easier to manage, harder to manage? Do you find that products move differently in those stores? We have on this call, we have Diana, who sells flavored pretzels. We have, I'm just thinking kind of sector wise, we have Darcy, who sells prepackaged plant-based jerkies. We have Susan, who's moving into like a prepackaged, actually Susan's just down the road from you. She lives just not in Regina Beach, but close. And she has a prepackaged pemmican product that she's working on developing.
Cool. Yeah, it depends what you have. So people go to gas stations. So I'll use Amy's product as an example because we've got kombucha in a lot of gas stations throughout the province. And we definitely babysit them a little bit more than the grocery stores. There just aren't as many people that are shopping when they go into C-stores as you think they are. They're there for gas, first and foremost, usually, and then usually a beverage or maybe a snack, if they're waiting for their fuel to be pumped. But often people buy gas on the go and they're kind of trying to either rush home after work or get gas in their vehicle before work. So I don't find that C-stores move as much volume as you think. They don't have the storage that grocery stores do, so their ordering sizes are smaller and they take more margin than grocery stores. So if you go to a co-op grocery store, your product may be $3.99 on the grocery store shelves, so they're going to ask for $4.49 on the gas station across the street that's the same co-op, let's say. It's just the products are always more expensive in a gas station. So I think consumers are kind of wise to that as well, and they think, well, if it's available in the grocery store across the street, I'm just going to get it there for $1 cheaper. So yeah, C-stores are an interesting one. Hope that answers your question.
I think we also have a few more questions here in the chat. Lori from Jordan Ridges asked, do the standalone shelves work to increase sales?
Yes, they do. If you're losing a sale, the best way to kind of regain their interest is say, well, especially because you're going to often hear all sorts of excuses. Some of the excuses range from, I just don't have the shelf space, or we just ordered another product in the competing space. I don't have room for the two. The most common one certainly is, I don't have the space for it. It's like, oh, this is an easy answer for you. I have this shelf that we'll provide you with that's littered in our branding. It's it meets the height requirements, and generally you want to stay under 5 feet with your display. It fits all our products nicely. And the nice thing about those shelf displays is they often just let you babysit them. Here, we're going to stick you down the aisle where your product is relevant, and we're gonna give you a little feature space, and you keep it full. Keep eyes on it. Once it gets empty, hopefully you're here on time to make sure it's full, and don't order too much. Don't order too little. Just order enough until the next time you're going to be back in the store to supply us. And it makes it really easy to babysit, maintain, and generate sales at an account that otherwise would have not considered you because they didn't have the room for it. I'll use jerky as an example because we have a jerky entrepreneur in here. There are a lot of beef jerkies out there, and stores only have so much shelf space for the plethora of beef jerky accounts that they get pitched on a yearly basis. But if you have your own displays and your own shelving, you're going to find that you'll close a lot more sales using that. If it's looking like they're just going to fluff you off and say, I don't really have room to put you anywhere, make your own room, right?
One question I do have for you, Jordan. I was with a distribution company over COVID. I was able to fill a few of their supply issues, and then when their US brands came back, they weren't babysitting my brands at all. I had two not very good sellers, and I had two that were selling well. They weren't reordering the ones that were selling well. And anyway, so we've parted ways amicably, and I've been wholesaling it myself the 1st of July. What I found out about 2 weeks before I started wholesaling it, is that the Calgary Co-op stores had discontinued carrying Jordan Ridge sauces because of the two that weren't selling. So when I'm going into stores now, I'm kind of fighting an uphill battle because the shelf is empty of my best sellers, but they're sitting there with this stale product. And so I'm ending up going in and saying, well, I'll tell you what, let me take that stale product and I'll give you the ones that are selling, and taking the hit myself because I want it to move. But with Calgary Co-op stores dropping me, and I went right to the head guy and said, can we start afresh? Can we do this? What can I do? Let's do some demos. And he basically said, sorry, I've just delisted it. Too bad, so sad. Should I be going to those little co-op stores or the convenience stores that aren't under the Calgary Co-op umbrella, start there, and then go back to the Calgary Co-ops and go, by the way, I'm in 8 other co-ops. Would you reconsider?
Certainly.
Is that a strategy?
Yeah, certainly. Prove yourself. I've done it. I'll give you a good example. We were in Saskatoon Co-op grocery stores with a soda pop brand that kind of, very long story, decided to kind of go do something a little different than work with Shoreline. They ended up finding that babysitting their product in stores was a full-time job. And they found that out the hard way. And they lost their shelf space. They got delisted in Saskatoon co-ops. When they kind of came back to work with me and took some advice I had for them, what I ended up doing was I put the soda pop in all of Saskatoon Co-op's C-stores. I went and blanketed across all the gas stations, all 14 of them or whatever there are in Saskatoon. I know that doesn't sound like many because you're in Calgary, but and then, a little while later, I went back to Saskatoon Co-op and said, we're moving crazy volume through your C-stores. We got big Coroplast signs on sandwich boards out in front of the pumps that have our advertising, and things are really moving well. And give them your success story. I really worked at clawing this back and doing it the right way. And they'll eventually take you back if you're selling through their other, their convenience stores and fuel stations. One of the things that we did unique, that we're doing a lot of, that was unique in that situation, is we do a exclusive co-op branded soda pop for them. They love that sort of thing. If you offer an exclusive flavor or exclusive product that your fans, that your consumers can't get at their competition, at the Sobeys, the Safeway, the Loblaws, superstores, they're going to bring your product in. You're going to make a Co-op branded soda pop. So we do a blood orange soda pop for Saskatoon Co-op. This is our soda pop brand here, and it's got a galaxy scene. So on either side, we did kind of a galactic Delta Besbro Hotel, which is an iconic hotel in Saskatoon. And the other side, we did a kind of a galactic looking bridge, because it's the city of bridges. And they gobbled that right up, and they listed the whole brand once again. It worked. So yes, I definitely recommend doing that. It will work. It may take time. And also for everyone else, I guess, it's always good to start with your best-selling brands. You know, I'm right now working with a company that put all their products in the store before asking should they put all their products in the store. You know, they make this wide variety of hand soaps, hand sanitizers, bubble baths, it's conditioners, shampoos, dish detergents, and there's so much going on. And they didn't think to strategize. So, you know, starting with your best sellers and gaining the confidence of that grocer is the most important thing, and then start building out to some of the other products within your brand that you want to test. And as long as they have the products that you started off with that motored the best for you, they're going to keep trialing the seasonal flavors or the one-offs that you want to put in there, and sometimes they'll work and sometimes they won't. But you know, you've done good business with them already because you put your best sellers on there, and that just instills so much confidence in them. And you know, they won't delist you as readily as they otherwise would. So yeah, we've done that with a lot of brands as well.
Jordan, I'm just gonna out that company because Raj is a really good friend of mine. So that organization, do you think they would have had better, because they were in a few different market segments, and we have some people in this call that are in a few different market segments in their product, or they could be fine in snack bars or sauces.
Right.
Do you find that Nikik would have done better if the bubble bath was with, because they used to just get the bunkers.
Right.
Do you think that Nikik would have done better with their different SKUs if it was a more targeted approach? So you would go look for bubble bath and that would be an option.
Yes. I'm going to try and put the bubble bath with bubble bath. I'm going to try and put the hand soap with the hand soap. I'm going to try and put the laundry detergent with the laundry detergent, rather than just a massive Nikik you know, display. It was a good strategy, you know, to get them listed, but they definitely should have paired that with their items down the aisle. You know, as an outside consumer looking in, I look at, you know, what am I going to do with their products? I got to look at what sold best and what didn't, and start building it back from the best sellers, and working out that way. You know, we've got stores in the malls of people that buy candles and hand soaps like it's going out of style. And why they didn't just come up with this massive lineup of say half a dozen different beautifully scented soaps that are relevant to First Nations communities. It was a missed opportunity. And then kind of building out to some of their other products. The other thing they weren't doing is they didn't have an advocate going in and out of stores and teaching people that you know, whatever, this size jar equals as many loads as this big tub of Tide. So maybe a shelf talker that shows their product equal sign big red tub of Tide will help people to make that educated decision. So there's a few different strategies we're going to employ with those guys to try and get back their Sobe Safeway sales, but there's still a lot of meat on the bones in this province that we're unexplored, and we're excited to work with them and grow their brand in the province.
Wonderful.
The other thing, before I forget to mention, LTOs and wholesale price promotions. Those are words that retailers love to hear. Offer a discount even if it's just 5%, you know, and put a minimum on it. You know, say, hey, you give me a minimum 10 case order, a minimum $500 order, or you buy one case of the entire lineup, I'll give you 5% off your initial purchase. One of my favorite tricks, and it's just the best, it works like a charm, is if you offer them a wholesale price promotion or an LTO off the initial purchase, they're often going to list your item at the price based on the invoice you gave them. Don't even, make that verbal sale and say, hey, yeah, I'm giving you this much off if you make this minimum purchase. And don't even put that on your invoice. Just take it off, and don't say, hey, we're giving you the discount or anything. And if they call you on it, just say, yeah, we gave you the discount. And then they're gonna list your item in store at that price. It's gonna take them a lifetime. When you get your second re-up, essentially, it's gonna take them a lifetime to realize that, oh shoot, the price went back up to regular on this. You're making your new margin, but your product is now being offered on shelf at the LTO price point, it's just great for you. So use that one if you feel like it. It works really well. And I mean, sometimes it's fun playing with and I hate to say it, with the laziness of some of the people that are in charge of putting your product on shelf. So
Hey, Jordan, we had one good question. Is Shoreline expanding to Alberta, or is our Shoreline going to represent Alberta companies?
Yeah, that is a loaded question. We are
isn't it, Jordan, after the emails that I've sent this week?
Yeah, we're now getting listed in Alberta as an agency. My model is always to represent local Saskatchewan brands. I've recently hired a gal.
We just got a message over Manitoba too. So
yeah, we're doing that as well. I recently hired a gal who's got me thinking a little bit less consulting, boots on the ground sales agency, and a little bit more, let's turn this thing into a big, Western Canadian agency that helps all Canadian brands within their province and beyond. So stay tuned, I guess.
There is one more question that we kind of missed out on. So Ebtasam had asked that sometimes the store managers are moving the products to a different shelf. What would be a good idea to kind of deal with that?
Say that again, sorry.
So sometimes the store managers are moving the shelf, like moving the product to a different shelf without kind of notifying you. So what would be kind of a way to deal with that?
It's a tough one. The seasons come and go. So I'll use Amy's product as an example. Every year, her product gets moved to a different section of the grocery store when eggnog comes in stores, because they need to find room for all the Christmas eggnog. I hate it. I hate it so much, but it happens to me every year. And so you've got to really advocate for your product and try and find the flex spaces that are going to best suit your product during those times. Those kinds of things suck. There's not much you can do because there's only so much square footage in a grocery store, and things like Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, they all come around, and all of a sudden there's a million boxes of stovetop stuffing that kicked your product to some other section of the grocery store. And you just gotta think on your toes, be creative. Use your relationships. Again, building the relationships with them is the most important thing. And the more they get to know you as a person, or your sales representative as a person, the more they're going to listen to you and help you as best they can. So the other thing I definitely wanted to touch on today too, when it comes to sales, I guess, is being volume minded. It's so important to have volume in mind if you intend to grow a sustainable brand. I always refer to saying, would you rather make a quarter 5 times or $1 once? Having volume in mind when pricing your product will take you very far. It's always nice massaging every ounce of profit margin you can out of your product. But often that just results in lackluster movement. And, because you're catering to a small demographic. The other thing to consider is that shelf space is very valuable. And you want to create movement that warrants its own shelf space, or you're going to lose it. So the way to move volume is by having an attractive price point. The reality is that the cost of living is increasing, and people are watching now more than ever where they're spending their hard-earned dollars. And if you can price your product competitively, you'll find that the volume will more than make up for the margin you gave up. So try and squeeze every ounce of every ounce you can when pricing your product, so that you can hopefully move 3 to 4 times as much as you otherwise would if you decided to charge $1 more. That's honestly the difference. I'm in the liquor world, and it's crazy how social reference price products move by the pallet load, whereas if you create a really niche, unique product, well, that $45 750 milliliters of gin is going to sit in someone's cabinet for 6 months when they have guests over to make really nice cocktails for, versus the product that they grab every weekend to have a little bit of fun with because it costs $23. So volume, I'm always trying to coach my brands to have that volume mind. And what you're inherently doing is you're building sustainability. Oh man, this product moves so great. I'm going to have a display here, a feature wall here, and it available in its section, because we go through tons of this stuff. And so you're creating longevity for yourself, and a real good buzz around your brand by trying to move volume through pricing aggressively, versus, hey, my product's amazing, I'm going to price it where it deserves to be priced, but now you're disappointed because you're only moving 1 case a month or something like that. So definitely all things to consider. I know it's a tough thing to look at, but it's definitely an effective strategy.
Amazing. Well, I feel like that was loaded with absolute wisdom. I know you weren't sure that it was going to be loaded with absolute wisdom exactly 59 minutes ago, but look at you go.